How do you overpower the game? That is a fantastic, fantastic way to handle things. And overpowering the game is where you create enough buzz so that the system shifts towards you. Create enough buzz so that the system shifts towards you. It's really about working outside of the system. And J. Cole, who's considered one of the greatest rappers of the current generation, folks in their 30s, he's a great example of that. One simple example was that when he had one of his last major albums come out, his album came out, and then he left the country. He didn't do press or anything like that. The album went to #1 or whatever anyway. It did what it did. And then he left. And then he came back about 6 months later, and he did a guest appearance on a major rapper song. And the guest appearance was, I'm a hip hop guy, and the guest appearance was insane. It was ridiculously good. And then he left. he came in the video because they had a video for it. They still do music videos. Did a video for it, and then he left. I know he has a wife and kids. He's really from North Carolina. Shout out to my family down in Durham. But, so he's down in North Carolina. So he's down with his wife and kids. Like he has a couple kids, whatever. And then 6 months later, he came back, did the exact same thing. He did that several times over the course of 3 to 4 years. And as rap fanatics and people that really love the art, it was fascinating. The thing in there, though, which you might not catch, is that, yes, he went his own way in hip hop culture in particular, but I would say art in general. You think of the Taylor Swifts, you think of the Drakes we talked about earlier. They're constantly coming out. Like Taylor Swift is prolific. Drake can't be prolific, but that's a whole different discussion. We're not going to open that can of worms. But definitely let's look at Taylor Swift. She's prolific. She's writing her stuff. She's coming out with stuff darn near every year. She's motivated. I love when that creative streak comes out. I came out with about 8 books in the past 8 years, so I'm not judging her with the amount of output she's had. I was talking about Prince earlier in this episode. The thing is that one of the reasons why she's able to do the Eras tour, and she's over in London town and other places, shout out to the folks overseas. She's over there right now as we speak. One of the reasons why she's able to do that is because she comes out with stuff so rapidly. That's something that I was kind of hinting at when we were talking about Drake and mastering the game earlier. Remember, you can master the game, which is playing by the rules of the game and being the best within that system. Drake is one of those people. Taylor Swift, until recently, was one of those people too. One of the reasons why she has to keep coming out so much is to stay relevant. J. Cole would fall into the disrupt the game category. He's basically saying, I'm not going to play this game. I think he's in his mid to late 30s. Let's say he's 37. He's like, look, I'm 37. I got a wife. I got babies at home. I think they're young kids. I got babies at home. I'm usually in the Carolinas. I'm not usually in New York. I'm usually in the Carolinas. And I've already gotten some Grammys, and I've already established my base, my 1,000 true fans, but in his case, it's probably 1 million true fans. But I've already got my 1,000 true fans. Shout out to Kevin Kelly. I got my 1,000 true fans. I don't need to come out all the time. I'm going to drop this album, which really was like a mixtape. I'm going to drop this album, and then I'm going to go overseas, and then I'm going to go spend time with my wife and kids. And then, you know what? I like working with this artist over here. So I'm going to hop on the mic with them, and maybe I'll just remind people that I still got it. And I'm going to do a fire verse. I'm going to just kill it in a good way. And then I'm going to go about my business. Oh, I'm going to do it again. Oh, I did it again. So there's a level of independence that comes with that, incoming in your own concentric circle. Jay-Z, who actually originally signed J. Cole way back in the day, probably like a decade plus ago now, he had a very similar method where he, Bigsburg, as well as Damon Dash, they formed a trifecta, and they said, okay, Jay-Z's the rapper here, Bigsburg is businessman behind the scenes, and Dame Dash, who's known to be a tough negotiator, as a negotiator. He's the face of the business side. Bigsburg was very much in the shadow and in the background where he wanted to be. And they couldn't get a deal. They went to Def Jam, who ironically Jay-Z ended up being the head of later on. But they went to Def Jam, all these folks back, I want to say in the mid-90s, early mid-90s. And they were like, no, we're not going to sign you. So they started their own independent label. And they got so big that they're able to negotiate an amazing deal later on with Def Jam. And of course, about a decade and a half later, Jay-Z ended up becoming president of Def Jam for a number of years. The thing is working outside of the system. One of the things I talked about in the newsletter today at joindamon.me, again, it's free. Feel free to grab it. It comes out every Wednesday at 5:55 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. What I talked about today is that building your own following is a great way to overthrow the system, to overpower the system, because you're actually going around the gatekeepers. That's what we're really talking about today. When you're talking about mastering the game, disrupting the game, overpowering the game, we're really talking about the gatekeeper system. Are you going to wait, or are you going to work with the gatekeepers and make sure that they let you in because you're hitting a certain standard based on what they're saying? Are you going to disrupt the gatekeepers? Or are you going to work with them for a little bit just to understand the flaws in their system and then go ahead and topple it from perhaps within the system? Or are you going to overpower the gatekeepers where you're going to create so much of a buzz? J. Cole did that. Create so much of a buzz. Jay-Z did that. Where suddenly the industry says, oh, we want to work with you. And then suddenly you're the gatekeeper. You're the gatekeeper of whatever buzz you're created, whatever music, whatever book, whatever art piece, whatever product, whatever service. Suddenly you become the gatekeeper, but you're not the gatekeeper of other people. You're the gatekeeper of your own work. And suddenly you decide who you want to partner with. Back to the J. Cole example, he's been grinding and building his loyal fan base. And so he comes out with an album. He doesn't have to promote it. Everybody's going to gobble it up. Everyone who's supposed to will gobble it up. He doesn't need to be in the spotlight all the time. He can go and do a single, as they call it, one song. He'd do a single with a popular artist and then often outshine that popular artist and then go back to his house and live a normal life. Excuse me. It's obviously that's what he's architect. I don't know if that was strategy from the beginning, but that's the thing of it. The challenge, if you're going to overpower the system, this is really important, is that you better come correct. You better come correct. To quote Omar from The Wire, the classic show on HBO from a couple of decades ago now. Can't believe it's that old now. But to paraphrase him, if you aim at the king, you better not miss. In other words, you can go ahead and keep playing those games where you say, okay, I'm only going to show up when I want to show up. I know y'all know people like that. As a business coach, I've coached hundreds of people. I've met folks like that. Tried to work with some folks like that where they say, you know what? I'm not going to work within the system. I'm going to do things my own way. I'm going to sleep in and I'm going to come into work whenever I want to. I said I was going to deliver the product or service at this time, but I don't want to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and not do that right now. You know what? I said I was going to do it this way, but I don't feel like it. I'm going to do it my own way. Forget the laws and the rules to this. Sometimes that works. Oftentimes it does not. And going back to what we talked about with the previous principles, if you don't know why the rules are in place, or going back to the 48 laws of power, shout out to Robert Greene, if you don't know who's really in control, then you don't know what power games you're really playing. And if you're not observant enough, or more importantly, if you're on your own particular vibe, you're just going on vibes, as they say, and you're not delivering the quality product or service, you're going to be in trouble from the gatekeepers, because they're not going to like that you're not playing the rules. That's the thing with gatekeepers. They don't like that. The rules are there for a reason. Whether it's just for structure or just to prevent chaos, those rules are there for a reason. There's a reason why with traditional publishing, the publishers, specifically the editors at the publishing companies, will only hear from writers who have agents, because there's a gatekeeper system. You go in and you pitch the agent whatever book idea you have. If the agent co-signs you, the agent will take you around to the editors. If the editor co-signs you, then the publisher, who often is a real person, it's not just a company. The publisher is often a real person. The publisher co-signs on it, and suddenly you have a book deal. But you see the three levies you have to go through. They're there for a reason. That's a level of protection. That's a level of saving the energy. They figure by the time you get through these 3 layers, then your shit must be good. Pardon my French, but they're there. But it doesn't mean that they're always fair. So if you're circumventing those things, if you're flaunting those things, the people that are in charge, those gatekeepers, might not like it. So if you're aiming for the king, you bet not miss, straight up. So you better make sure that your stuff is hot. That's one level of it with the gatekeepers. But you're getting it from the other side too. The other side are the people that you're serving. I remember, I'm not even going to mention the artist. I remember an artist came up with something. I was so looking forward to it. I bought the thing, and then within about 3 to 4 weeks, they said that was a rough draft and they changed it. I was mad because they didn't warn anybody. They just said, no, you know what I came out with wasn't really the final. It wasn't like, hey, well, I'll give you your money back. No, they said, oh no, this is the product. Okay, great. No, actually that was the beta. But I still got your money. And in fact, I'm probably using that money to come up with the real version that came out later. I know I wasn't the only one that was upset. I'll leave it at that. I'm not gonna put the artist on blast. But it's a shame. And that I lost so much trust. So I'm like, here's my money. You know, I had babies at the time. So it was like quite a while ago. It's like, here's my money. I'm trusting that you're gonna serve me in a certain way. And then you come in and it's like, no. Hey, thank you for coming through. It's like, no. This isn't the thing. This isn't the real thing. How does that make me feel? I'm talking about it. This was years ago. I'm still talking about it to this day. I still don't trust this artist because I don't believe them anymore. They were working outside of the system. They were overpowering the system, doing direct hand-to-hand, same stuff that I do. You know, I'm publishing this. If anything's wrong with this, it's my fault. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, you got beef with the Complete Bring Your Worth collection. I'm here. I'm here every Wednesday. Come through. You can drop me a DM, drop me an email. I'm outside, as they say. If you're going to be overpowering the system, you actually are the system. That's what I'm trying to say. And if you're going against the traditional system, like a J. Cole, like a Jay-Z, like someone like myself, where I have my own publishing company, and I'm still cool with the agents, editors, and publishers, other folks that I've worked with. We still have lunch and coffee and drinks and all that. We're still cool, but they know I'm on some other stuff. But that means the responsibility lies completely with you. You have no system to rely on. Worse than that, if you're dependent at all in a traditional system, you know, whether it's a streaming platform like Spotify, which is a popular one nowadays, a traditional publishing system like Ingram, which, you know, does book publishing, and they actually print a lot of my books and so forth, and you buck the system, your stuff has to be at such a high level. Again, back to the J. Cole example. He was able to disappear. North Carolina is pretty woodsy, so I'm not being dramatic here. He's able to go ahead, come out with a hot album, and go back into the woods in North Carolina, and then come back 6 months later, drop another hot thing, hop on somebody's album, do a guest appearance. You know, the equivalent of, if you don't know music as well, it's the equivalent of when they used to have the guest appearances on TV shows back in the 70s and 80s, right? It's like guest appearance of so-and-so, and it's Isaac from the Love Boat, blah, blah, blah. That kind of thing. Coming in, doing that guest appearance, and you know your guest appearance is going to be that hot that you can just leave Hollywood for 6 months and do another guest appearance. That's what J. Cole's been doing. To a lesser extent, that's what Jay-Z's been doing. More so back in the day when he first started a few decades ago. You got to make sure that your stuff is correct if you're going to take this approach. I cannot emphasize it more. So what I've essentially done with my own career has gone through all three. I've mastered the game And that was from my time in traditional publishing. That was my time of working with the TED conference and learning a lot about public speaking. That was my time getting my master's in magazine publishing from Northwestern and getting the #1 journalism school of that year. The reason why I bring that up is because it was considered the pinnacle of conservative, not politically, but as far as the structure of journalism. I learned from them. And then I went in and learned all the rules that I didn't want to keep. Or sorry, let go of all the rules that I didn't want to keep. I was like, I'm not going to do that. No, I'm not going to write that way. I'm not going to write that way. And then now I'm to the point, after learning from all of the games from different folks, I'm able to have my own publishing company, have my own TV show, and have my own coaching practice, even do some of my independent public speaking. All those things come from understanding the systems well enough over time. And so that's what I'm going to be clear about. You don't need to be wedded to these particular systems. Just know what your strategy is and stick to it for a little while and see where it gets you. A lot of people that I coach will have one strategy. They'll do it literally for like a week or a month, and they'll be like, oh, it's not working. I'm going to go this other way. The only thing that does is confuse your brand and confuses your idea. It confuses you. The best thing you can do is figure out what works best for you and then going from there. As far as overpowering the game, one of my favorite books that talks about this is Big Magic. Shout out to Elizabeth Gilbert. Fantastic book. It's about creativity, but more importantly, getting insight and inspiration from outside traditional sources. That's why it's called Big Magic. It's nothing. It's nothing like what's the word I'm looking for? As they say, woo-woo or anything like that, or spiritual even about it. It's more about where do we get our ideas from, and what's the subtitle? Creative Living Beyond Fear. I love that. Creative Living Beyond Fear. You're going to have to do creative living beyond fear if you're going to overpower the system. Essentially, whatever you create has to so OP, overpower, be so overwhelming and so good, so necessary to not only the people that you serve, but to the economic market climate in general. The reason why I'm able to have a publishing company is folks like y'all say, Damon, keep making books, and you keep showing up to BringWord.tv for it. We're going on 400 episodes, so thank you. But that allows me to do that. If you guys weren't rocking with this, didn't care about the books, then I wouldn't be making a living, and I wouldn't be talking to y'all right now. But that's required if you're going to overpower the game. A lot of those insights come from this book. A lot of those are talked about here. There's some other fantastic books, but this is a really good place to start. Big Magic is fantastic. It's also available on Shortform. And let me go ahead and I believe it's available on Shortform. It should be. Sorry, my computer's running a little bit slow today. It's like, what are you doing? There it is. Get you on the stage here. There we go. Big Magic, boom. Again, great opportunity. If you're coming in late, this is sponsored by Shortform. You can actually go and learn more about them at shortform.com/Damon. I have a deal where free trial of Shortform and then 20% off your annual subscription. Shortform takes all the good stuff from these different books, a lot of popular books, and even some less popular books. I was surprised they were on there. All the things that I have on my shelf, most of those books are actually on Shortform. And it not only gives a description of what's going on in the book, but also breaks down the chapters. You can highlight the ideas and so forth. As you can see, you have the one-page summary. You also have the chapters. As I talked about at the top of the show, you have this great opportunity to, I know this book by heart. I listen actually to the audiobook a lot. But if there's a specific thing, like there's one specific thing about the idea of a muse floating from one willing party to another willing party. And if you don't act on that inspiration, it's going to go to another artist. I remember the concept. I can talk about the chapter, the way Elizabeth Gilbert is a killer with words, the way she describes it, but I can't remember which chapter it was in. There's a great opportunity to say, oh, okay. Which chapter was it? Okay, this is the chapter. And I believe it was chapter 3. That's his creative fears. And it breaks it down. Done. And then highlighting the particular things. So fantastic opportunity. Again, you're more than welcome to go and check it out. Sponsor of our show. I have a special deal with them. And sorry, we throw the link up as well. Right there, check it out. But you can check out Big Magic on there. You can also, of course, grab it at the link below if you already know that you're rocking with the book. And it's a really good opportunity to go ahead and learn more about the books before you actually purchase them, and you can purchase them directly through the platform. Your creative power strategy. I have a sorry for the mess with the link. I think my tech's a little wonky today. It's about 110 here in Vegas. I think it's messing with the tech a little bit. About to call the power company, be like, yo, what's going on? But I'm glad that we have AC, because man, shout out to y'all that are dealing with the fans. Bless your hearts. That's a rough place to be right now. Listen though, I have a whole playlist I've created about your creative power strategy that's based on the concepts that we talked about today. In this playlist, it's what we talked about at the top of the show with Michael Jackson, Prince, as well as Jay-Z, as well as the more recent episode with Drake, Kendrick Lamar, and J. Cole, as well as deep dive episodes, particularly on Prince. Fascinating history, fascinating guy. Rest in peace to the purple one. But I've done whole long episodes about his business strategies, which are just brilliant and way ahead of their time. Back when I was a kid, he was doing stuff that we wouldn't figure out until now. And again, you see my gray hairs. That was a long time ago, and he was already killing it. Lots of episodes from that. From Beyonce, a lot of her strategy is amazing. Martha Stewart even. Be sure and check out the playlist if you're looking to do that. If you weren't sure about which videos to start with, I gave 2 videos. Again, the Michael Jackson one as well as the Drake one. They're all listed below. But if you're like, I don't know which one to start with, whatever, just click the link on the playlist, and you got literally hours of videos that you can just dig into and get deeper into the stuff that we're talking about. And I think that's what's beautiful about all the systems that we have, is that there's really no wrong way to reclaim your creative power. You can master the game, you can disrupt the game, or you can overpower the game. And the number one thing with mastering the game is understand the rules so that you can get things done within a mainstream, traditional manner. There's no shame in that. Again, I was in the traditional publishing industry for a while. I've been in other traditional industries such as journalism for a while. Nothing wrong with that. Even if you eventually want to go independent, there's a lot of strength in that. The other side of it, though, is that the more you master the game, the less likely you're going to be able to leave the game. And so keep that in mind as you take that approach. You could disrupt the game. Disrupt the game means learn the rules well enough so that you can actually pick and choose them or rebel against them. Now, the beautiful part about that is that you can learn these particular systems and then go off on your own and then be able to build them, such as, again, me having a publishing company. I wouldn't be able to do that if I wasn't in the traditional publishing world, or at least that road would be a lot longer. The key thing, though, is that you actually do need to take the time to understand the particular rules and ideas and understand why things are. If you don't understand why things are, then it's going to be really difficult to do. And that sounds like a rough road, because some of us end up taking the hard way and then realizing why those rules are in place in the first place. There was someone that came up with that rule in the first place because they did what you're planning on doing ages ago. You might as well learn from them. That's why, shout out to Shortform again for sponsoring. That's why reading books and literature and listening to podcasts is so important, because you don't want to have to make the same mistakes. And lastly, you can overpower the game, create enough buzz so that the system has to shift towards you. Now, of course, that's beautiful where you're able to do things independently and not have to worry about gatekeepers as much. But the fact is that a lot of us, even those that are independent, such as myself, I'm about as independent as you can get. I'm still dependent on YouTube to a certain extent, to Amazon, to the people who physically publish these books. Again, shout out to Ingram and other folks. It's not from a place of resentment or anything, but recognizing you can only get so independent. But then that's the other side of it, is that if you're going to overpower the system, you better make sure that your stuff is amazing. You better make sure that you have built your audience, because you essentially become the system. And you're the one that's going to have to follow through. It's going to be your face that's going to be representing the product. And I think it's so important to recognize that. So whether you master the game, disrupt the game, or overpower the game, I don't think there's a wrong way to do it, but you have to be thoughtful as far as how you're going to strategize those things. But thank you so much for coming through today. Let me know if you have any last minute questions in the comments or even in the reruns of this episode. I do read the comments, so feel free to jump in there. And I love to hear your perspective. Maybe even down the line, we'll do a follow-up episode talking about how you mastering the game, disrupting the game, or overpowering the game, how that's working out for you. Maybe we'll do a check-in in the upcoming months. Again, I'm Damon Brown. I'm here to help you as a side hustler, so entrepreneur, otherwise a not traditional entrepreneur. The heat's starting to get to me. Bring Your Worth TV every Wednesday live at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. I already know there will actually not be a live episode next week because got a lot of family stuff going on. Of course, it's the holiday season here in the United States. So be safe out there, have fun. Grill if it's not too hot outside for you guys, or just grill inside. Most people got a broiler, just broil inside. Do that. And shout out again to my sponsor, Shortform. You can actually get their free trial, unlimited access to all their books, products, and all that stuff for a limited time, and also get 20% off if you're interested in getting their annual subscription. So shout out to them. Thank you for making this episode possible. Until next time, remember, you can always bring your worth. You can always build from now. Take care of yourselves and others.